Today on TimesCast, the European Union agrees to modify a treaty promising stricter financial discipline, but Britain holds out. In Cairo, the op-ed columnist Nicholas D. Kristof meets the young woman behind the Muslim Brotherhood's Twitter feed.
It's my first time to be in such an interview.
And in Moscow, opposition activists are planning large protests for Saturday, encouraged after unusually high turnouts at rallies earlier in the week.
It's a new era for Europe. European leaders have agreed on a new treaty to finally end the continent's debt crisis. But more than just a financial deal, this treaty is politically reshaping the landscape of Europe. Clearly, there are winners and losers. It was a huge gamble for David Cameron, the British Prime Minister. He has kept Britain out of these negotiations. Britain didn't want to be part of this new grand fiscal compact because it feared being dragged further into Europe's crisis. People are talking about a two-speed Europe, with Britain on the outside and Germany and its allies moving forward in the centre. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, comes out a winner. She has achieved a new system which will now cover most of Europe to monitor and punish countries who allow their budget deficits to get out of hand. She wanted this put in place to make sure that the financial crisis doesn't happen again. Markets so far have cautiously welcomed this deal, but they seem to try to work out what exactly it means and whether it will be put in place. We've seen many deals in the past that never in fact amounted to much. Crucially, it turns attention to the role of the European Central Bank. This agreement was the first step, but most analysts think that Europe will only solve its financial crisis if the European Central Bank intervenes far more forcefully than it has done so far in pumping money into the European economy. So far, there's not much sign of that happening.
The op-ed columnist Nicholas D. Kristof meets one family who has contributed to the rise of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt.
Plenty of my Egyptian and American friends are freaking out about the election results here and the rise of Islamist parties. So I've come back for a quick post-election visit to try to figure out, should we really be worried? Okay, here, Thank you, this is fabulous. One of my first stops was the poised social media guru who's behind the Muslim Brotherhood's new Twitter account. When did you come out to the world, so to speak, or is this your coming out party?
It's my first time to be in such an interview.
Sandos Asem kept an anonymous profile until tonight.
I hope there will not be negative repercussions. Okay, it's your responsibility.
Okay. When I showed up for dinner with a Muslim Brotherhood family, I wondered if I was going to be surrounded by wild-eyed, bearded types. In fact, they more resemble a family from an American sitcom. Her dad publishes Muslim Brotherhood literature. Mubarak's regime shut his business down 4 times. And her mom is a college professor who is running for parliament and leading in the polls. Sandos is 24 and she's studying at my old school, American University in Cairo, or AUC.
Many people are really scared from just the idea of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's very scary for them, and that's why it's not easy to just confess that you are part of this group and that you are even active.
Many Egyptians and Americans have been surprised to see the Muslim Brotherhood do so well. But Sandos says, look, the party has been around forever, providing services to poor Egyptians, and now it's just coming out of the woodwork.
It's no longer an outlawed group, and it now has an official political party, and it's going to be part of the next government, so it's a reality now.
And another video and op-ed column from Nicholas D. Kristof will be on nytimes.com Sunday. And in Russia this week, an opposition movement gained momentum. Ellen Barry reports.
This whole week in Moscow, we've seen something that is very unusual. Starting with Sunday's parliamentary elections, there's been a mobilization of young people who have previously not been involved in politics. The numbers have not been enormous by international standards, but for Russia to have 5,000 people out in a square demonstrating against the government is very unusual. One of the people who has managed to mobilize them is a blogger named Alexei Navalny, who is really one of the first new faces we've seen in the Russian opposition in many years.
Очевидно, что люди, которые, может быть, 2 года назад, 5 лет назад были сторонниками Путина, горячими сторонниками Путина, сейчас они просто говорят: парень, мы тебя взяли на работу, но ты ничего не сделал, поэтому мы тебя не поддерживаем.
Some of the things that are appealing about him is he came up outside the structure of organized political parties. He's a blogger who has focused on exposing corruption in state-run companies through his websites. And Mr. Navalny was arrested on Monday after speaking at a demonstration. He's just been sentenced to 15 days in jail. And his arrest also seems to have struck a chord among his followers. On Tuesday, there was a sort of a fascinating crowd of hipsters and students and young people who were gathered outside various courthouses waiting for a glimpse of Mr. Navalny.
Алексей Навальный – это создатель мема, который же знает каждый россиянин, что «Единая Россия» – это партия жуликов-воров. В том числе это знает уже и Путин, и Медведев.
What we have right now is a fairly inchoate group of activists who have no organizational structure and no obvious leader. So Navalny is one of the people who may emerge as a leader. The big intrigue in Moscow is what's going to happen on Saturday. There have been calls out through Facebook for a gathering on Revolution Square outside the Kremlin. On that page, I think 30,000 people have said that they're coming, but what that means is not at all clear. And it's important to keep in perspective that this is a society that has not had major opposition action in many years, and where many people feel that opposition activity is useless.
На митингах тоже не участвовал, но почему-то друзья агитируют и говорят, можно сходить. Я называю это не митинги, а народные гуляния. Конечно, это протест, да, это как бы голос народа против всего этого, но, не знаю, мне кажется, борьба вот эта с правительством ни к чему хорошему не приведет.